And then how did all this get you in trouble? So how did you end up?
Oh man. So me and McAfee split ways. All right. Okay. It's like a long story, right? But we split ways. And all of a sudden I hear that McAfee is arrested in Spain and thrown in some Spaniard prison. And it wasn't a shock to me because, that he was in Spain, but it was a shock that they arrested him. But I just kind of knew that was coming down the pipeline because McAfee was extremely vocal on all of his channels about how he didn't pay taxes. And I never caught him in one lie. Sometimes he would say stuff that was so audacious that there's no way you would believe it. But somebody would come along and verify it and tell the exact same story. And you're going, dude, I thought that was a lie.
Right.
And so he'd be like, I told you so. I told you. And he's always telling everybody, I told you that happened. And so when they arrested him, I figured it was for all of his tax evasion. And I was like, I guess that wasn't a lie. He literally stopped paying his taxes for 6 years and he owed millions of dollars. But his excuse was, I already paid $80 million to the IRS. I'm not paying no more.
Right.
He goes, would you pay, Jimmy? I'm like, I don't know, man. That's kind of crazy. And so he gets arrested. And when he gets arrested, man, I just knew because of how close we were, because I was running his entire company as a CEO, I knew that it was over for me. I knew that like my time was coming, my parents are getting letters at the house, getting visitations from the FBI telling me. And so, man, I just skedaddled. I just bounced. And I went overseas. And man.
So you thought they were coming for you?
Yeah, I just knew it was coming. Like, it didn't take, like, it was common sense that, like, look, I'm not going to answer their mail.
Did you feel like the money you made with him might have been illegal?
At the time, no, because the way it was done, it never even crossed my mind.
Were you paying your taxes?
Yeah, I was paying my taxes. I mean, I didn't even need to pay it. I was
just checking.
Yeah. That's one thing I was doing. Right. I was like, I'm going to pay my taxes because, man, that was hard for me to pay.
But I say that because, like, what made you think? Like, what made you run? Because you obviously had to think something was like you were doing something wrong.
No, you know what made me run? Okay, and this is crazy, but what made me run is that I had already had a massive interaction with the FBI from Blackwater when I was a team leader. I was a team leader of the Nisar Square, Baghdad's Bloody Sunday. They related it to the My Lai massacre, right? And so the 4 guys that I was in charge of, okay, they go to prison. Trump, this is how political it is. Trump pardons those 4 guys, right? I had immunity, okay? When they gave me immunity after I refused to talk for years, when they gave me immunity, I was in sniper school in the SEALs. I had to go testify. The way I testified was not compatible with their story, with the DOJ, the FBI story. They hated me from that moment on, okay? And so
because they were lying.
Well, because they
fabricated the story.
Well, their story didn't match up with mine, and I was there,
But that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So then that means they made up the story because you were there and you knew what happened.
I don't know. I honestly, still to this day, don't know why they act the way they do, or I don't see how it's possible. For instance, the FBI went over to investigate the Nisar Square, right? Now, keep in mind, my team wasn't a bunch of bloody Comanche warriors out there just taking scalps, man. We're out there doing a mission, defending others, saving National Guard teams, saving Marines, saving Army guys in this Blackwater group, right? And I'm in a counter assault team now. I'm in charge of 30 guys in the assault team in a quick reaction force, okay? And we're going out and saving people. We're going out and, yeah, you're going to get in massive engagements if you're doing 5 to 8 runs out the red zone every single day.
Right.
And it was bad. I had already got shrapnel. I knew my time was coming. I was surprised I hadn't died yet, man. And so I knew it was going to be bad, right? And just to put it in perspective, when the FBI went to Iraq, Baghdad, to investigate the Nisar Square, they couldn't even leave their rooms to investigate our war crimes because rockets were coming in and pounding them. So does that not give you a perspective of kind of what's going on in our nation right now?
Oh, that's crazy.
It's hypocrisy, right? It was bad. And so I had already had a massive run-in. I had already had a pretty rogue FBI agent send a memo that was lying to my SEAL command, saying that I lied on the stand when I testified.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying I lied. Well, if I lied, they would have got me for perjury.
Right.
And I was my lawyer was Monica Lewinsky's lawyer, Preston Burt. Yeah, he was paid by Blackwater Insurance, long story short. But anyways, they tried to ruin my SEAL career. They tried to ruin my SEAL career. And this is not just me, man. You know, when you're going through painful stuff in life, you compartmentalize and you just start shrinking under the pressure, and you think, man, woe is me. I'm the only person in the world going through this hell right now. But little did I know later on, when I won my case and retired out of the SEALs, which everybody thought was impossible after they came after me. Well, I started meeting other SEALs that this happened to, good friends of mine. A lot of dudes, like look at Eddie Gallagher, very similar story happened to that SEAL, right? And so a lot of guys were getting cold. The best sheepdogs are getting cold right now. And it's all part of the corrupt system that we're in. Mm-hmm. And it's literal recruitment for our military is down 42% right now. You can't even get a warrior to join now because you have a transgender agenda and inclusion and diversity and all this stuff. And so they're taking out all the warriors. The borders are being flooded by military aged men, mm-hmm. right? And I'm telling you, man, we're in for trouble. But I saw this coming 15 years ago, man.
Right.
In the fight of my life, when they came after my SEAL career. But I won that. I got out honorably, whatever that means. And I got out, and so to answer your question,
so it sounds like the reason was more of your previous experience with the FBI, and so you knew that you were running from something they could make up.
And whether or not they were related, yeah. I often say, guys, how many guys do you know personally who have been literally two massive battles with the FBI on two different unrelated fronts? And I made sure I mentioned that to the DOJ when they first arrested me. I said, guys, don't you guys think this is crazy? How, I'm the Blackwater dude, right? Y'all went after my SEAL career. You lost there, right? And now, in a completely unrelated incident,
right.
I'm getting just arrested by 15 FBI agents in Dallas, Texas.
So where'd you flee to?
For cryptocurrency.
Where did you flee to originally?
I left to where did I go first? Colombia, Medellin, Colombia.
Okay.
I did mercenary stuff out of there in Nicaragua, San Salvador, Mexico. Lived in Thailand. Started doing Muay Thai in Thailand. And so for 2 years, man.
I was about to say, how long was this span?
2 years? This is 2 years. I stay abroad.
Wow.
Okay, 2 years of anxiety, of just torn up.
From looking over your shoulder a lot.
Yeah. My departure from McAfee was all jacked up. He was like a dad figure to me. So I'm having all those issues. Mm. And then I'm like, how could this be? How could I be going through another thing with the FBI? I'm just blown away, right? And I don't even know what it's about. Because I'm still thinking I don't know what I could have done that was so bad for the FBI to
right.
arrest me, right? I didn't understand how conspiracy works and a leader of a company like that under the guy that they're really trying to go after. Mm. And so if McAfee was number one, man, I was number two, right? And they needed me to put McAfee away for life. And so my parents keep getting mail and keep telling me, I'm like, don't tell me, I don't want to know. I'm not on the run, technically, but I'm not answering, right? And I'm staying way away. And I'm also, but it was I was lost, man. I'm overseas. I've got a death wish, basically. I tell people that often. I'm just embracing death. I don't care. I'm doing pretty wild stuff. I'm On my off time, I'm partying. I'm on 3-day coke benders.
It's crazy. Like you and Sean Ryan got to get together.
Man,
his story is.
I don't even know his story.
There's some similarities.
That's crazy.
He went down to Medellin and like built his own like whole cocaine situation. Like I don't know. I don't want to speak on it, but like, and he was in a dark place for a while too. So do you think that stems from? So I had an opportunity to train a rock star one time, and he was explaining to me like you get to this level where you're performing in front of stadiums, right? Like hundreds of thousands of people, screaming your name. And then when you're done with it, you lose that. So then you lose you.
Bro, Do
you think that that's like when you become a Navy SEAL and y'all go through what you go through and then it stops, you kind of miss the adrenaline and the
absolutely it's validation seeking, right? And I coach guys now. I run my big men's group stuff, and I'm always telling guys, if you're having a problem in life, if you're having an issue with your wife, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but every time I remember to do this every day, every time I get my feelings hurt of anything, anger, greed, pride, ego, all this stuff is coming from seeking validation in all the wrong person, place, or thing, right? Mm-hmm. But when we seek validation from the only one who can give us validation, the Father in heaven, he's the only one. Masculinity strengthens masculinity. Right. He's the only one that can validate us. I believe this, and I've felt this. And anytime I'm seeking it from him, nothing phases me anymore, right? It took me years to learn this and years to mold into this like sword, right? And so, but before that, look at my career. Like you talk about seeking validation, man. Seeking titles, Marine Corps, Blackwater, SEALs, mercenary now, Muay Thai, like always chasing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like chasing the crowd again. I wanted the crowd to cheer me on, the man in the arena. But at the end of the day, it left me just hopeless, man. And it left me in a very dark place in my life, man. And so I always tell people, in the FBI told me that too. They said all outlaws come home, Jimmy, to see their mom one last time, like John Dillinger, So I was like, dang it. And so, I went against my own strategy, my own rules, art of war, and I went home to see my mom. I wanted to see her one last time,
right?
And before I left for good forever. And that was hard to see my mom and to be thinking I'm never going to see her again and say goodbye. But that wasn't the case. I had coffee with her and I told her goodbye, shed some tears. And then all of a sudden, man, I had this peace come about me. And I even told my mom, the last thing I told my mom before I was arrested by these 15 FBI and Dallas SWAT team, I said, Mom, everything's going to be okay. I just had this peace come across me. I'm not taking Xanax or anything right now. I just had this peace come across me.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, maybe somebody's praying. And man, that's when the FBI just blasted me, bro. And
literally at that moment?
At that moment. I get up. I tell her that. I get up. We walk maybe 50 feet. And right as we're up to the car, and man, this SUV, this black SUV, just pulls up, slams on its brakes. The guy's got a gun in my face. And he's like, are you Jimmy Watson? He yelled that. And I was like, yeah. And they said, get on the ground. They were sweating and yelling and screaming. I got on the ground. He's sweating all over me, man. Yanked him out, wrenching my arms back. And I just kept telling him, chill out, bro. Calm down, And I wanted my mom out there, and she videotaped it. But yeah, they put me in the car. He told me, Jimmy, it's over, man. You've lived a crazy life. And if you make it through all this, you need to either grow tomatoes or write a book. And I can't grow tomatoes, so doing the book thing.
And what do they charge you with?
So I didn't know at first, and I didn't know they could just transfer you to a federal penitentiary. Like for me, I didn't have a court. I wasn't arraigned. I literally was arrested because they considered me, SEAL and they considered me armed and dangerous. I'm I'm not here to bash the FBI. I'm not here to bash law enforcement. I love law enforcement. I've worked hand in hand with FBI and the SEAL teams. Like I've literally worked with them. So I don't ever blame the guy, right? And they're just doing their job. They get a message down from the DOJ, hey, this guy's armed and dangerous, and he's a flight risk. He's a SEAL. Oh man, bring out the Army.
The big dogs, yeah.
I wasn't even, the big dogs. And I wasn't even armed. And so they put me in the car. They were real chill after that. They were like, you know, how many pull-ups can you do and stuff? And I was like, take these handcuffs off and I'll show you. So they transferred me to some county, stay there a night, and then the very next day, 2 FBI come and grab me, and then transfer me straight to FMC, Fort Worth Medical Center. And that's every level of offender is held there because it's a medical center there. Okay. I didn't know anything about penitentiaries about it. But the Tiger King was in the pod next to me. So I'm staying in this place, man. They put me in solitary for 4 days because of COVID, and they ran out of cell rooms. And so
this was in 2020?
This is in 2020.
Oh, wow.
I believe this is 2020. And then I win my case to be transferred out and just put on house arrest. I got to sign a $5 million promissory bond.
But you still don't know what you're charged for?
Okay, yeah. So about
when did you know why the hell they arrested you?
So I stayed a couple days in solitary, and I'm thinking, don't I get a phone call or something? But I'm in solitary.
Or an explanation.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Yeah. And I one of the FBI kind of briefly told me, you know why you're arrested, right? And I was like, no, man, I didn't do anything. Like the typical guy on cops, But when I was in the solitary, after a couple of days, my lawyer came down there. My lawyer actually came down, Arnold Spencer in Dallas, if you need a really good criminal lawyer. And he met me in this dungeon area, man. It was like a dungeon down there. And man, I was like, I'm going to get me out of here. He goes, it doesn't work like that. It's a process now. He says, you've been charged with 8 felonies. And I'm like, what? 8 what? And I'm like screaming. He's like, chill out. He goes, it's conspiracy to commit fraud, money wire fraud, money laundering. I'm like, Arnold, I don't know how to, what's this money? I never send money wire fraud. Well, if it's derived from an action that's considered to be theft, from the boss man, and I send one text to my wife in Texas and ask her to send it to my USAA bank, USA canceled me after that, that's considered money. So
basically it was kind of like guilty by association.
Wire fraud, yeah.
Like because of McAfee's dealings and you were kind of controlling it, you were getting in trouble because of the stuff he was doing.
Yeah. And I don't want to I don't want to push off the blame here. I literally was doing his bidding. Hey, you want me to liquidate $1 million in crypto? I can do that easy. Me and my wife would do that. And so I would transfer to my checking account from different exchanges. One of the exchanges was in New York. And because I was dealing with that exchange, the crypto exchange, right? It was based, even the modem or whatever was based out of, the server was based out of New York. Well, because it was based out of New York, now the same guys, the Southern Manhattan District, basically the Navy SEALs of the Department of Justice were able to pick up my case in McAfee's and just come after us like sharks. And they don't lose,
Wow.
And so I had a bunch of felonies against me that I had to have explained. And I wasn't no choir boy, but for these particular charges, I was like, say again? And I still don't understand some of them, but overall, they wanted to get me with conspiracy, which is about 15 years from my understanding, from what my lawyer said. And he said it was not looking good for me. And I had about a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting out of it.
So what's your current situation with your criminal situation?
Are
you totally
free? Yeah,
done. Would they drop the charges?
Yeah, amazing.
So you're on house arrest for 1.5 years.
year and a half.
Not knowing.
Yeah, not knowing anything. I mean, I'm going to prison. I'm thinking, and my lawyer's like, I paid my lawyer $50,000 to tell me, Jimmy, you are going to prison. The FBI doesn't spend this long on anybody, 2 years, and build this case and then let you off. You're going to prison for probably 15 years.
Jeez.
And
where were you living at this time?
In Dallas, Texas, with my mom and my dad. And thank God for them. I was just done anyways. And so, man, so I'm on house arrest, and then all of a sudden, my phone just blows up. I get all these texts like, John McAfee died, John McAfee died, John McAfee, and I'm like, what? And then my lawyer calls me, and he's like, Jimmy, John McAfee was found hung in his prison, supposedly. Once they verify that, this could change the circumstances of your case. And so, man, I'm like, at the time, I wasn't even praying to God to get out of prison or anything. I didn't understand the charges. It was explained to me a little bit on, and I was like, okay, I could see where you could think that was bad. I take full responsibility for some of that. But I ended up praying to God one night, man, crying out to God, and I get an opportunity while on house arrest, and the same day McAfee is found in his prison dead, I get an opportunity to go to this nonprofit, this Operation Restore Warrior. And while I was there,
Operation Restore Warrior, is that
Operation Restored
Warrior?
Restored Warrior,
okay.
501(c)(3).
Yeah.
And I don't even remember how I found out a bit about these guys, but man, I ended up getting a chance. The Texas judge allows me to come off house arrest with my big old ankle bracelet on. I go there for 3 days, man. And now this is when I am just radically changed forever. My whole life is flipped upside down in a good way. And this is where everything made sense. And man, I can't even tell you how stretched out to the max I was after my life, and then I fall out with McAfee, and then being on the run, and then being arrested. And I mean, they finally caught me. They hit me up. I'm going to prison, right? And so I get a chance to go to Operation Restore Warrior. And while I'm there, these two guys, and I don't know it's a Christian organization. I don't know anything about it. I show up with like 4 or 5 other guys. And these two guys sit across from me and ask if they can pray for me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just glad to be off house arrest for 3 days, And so I'm sitting there. They start praying for me, man. And they asked me, they say, can you tell us a little bit about your life after they pray? And I said, yeah. And I tell them a little story like I'm telling you right now.
It's kind of hard to tell your story, a little bit of your story.
And I even was like, are you guys FBI agents? I was like, are you FBI? And so they're like, no, we're not FBI. This is what we do here.
Yeah.
And so I started telling them my story, Manning. And they stopped me like right dead sentence of my story. One of them, his name is Daniel. And he says, you skipped over part of your story. And I said, no, I didn't. And I was skipping over a part, but I didn't think it was meaningful. It was my time. It was a dark time in my life. It was right at the end with McAfee. And I used to walk. I used to walk outside, and these stars were hanging down in Ocracoke. It was overlooking a sound, his mansion. And I skipped over that part. And this guy leans in, he goes, no, you skipped over a part. And I said, no, I didn't, bro. Let's move on. And he was like, well, he goes, was that at the Love Boat or the Love Shack? And I'm like, what the heck? And I lean in, and I'm like, well, I was like, what'd you say? And he said the nickname, not only the name of the house, but like the nickname that I called this place that I just didn't even tell him. And I'm like, what is this guy? Some kind of psychic or something? Right. Like this is, and people that go to psychics, like I don't understand, because like they may tell you your birthday or your astrology and this and this and this, but when somebody tells you something very specific, like a nickname that you use, that'll get your attention, and it's actually scary.
Right.
It's not like you want to sit there and hear it out.
Right.
And so I was like, hey man, I say I'm like a fragile man right now, bro. And I say fragile men do crazy things. I don't know if you see the ankle bracelet on my skinny jeans right now, but I'm like on that level. And they were like, no, hear us out. And I said, well, if you know so much, man, I said, why don't you start talking? And I'm not going to say anything. If you know so much, if you just somehow pull it out of thin air, the nickname of this house that I was in with McAfee, then why don't you tell me more? And so he looked at the other guy and he nodded at him and he just starts telling me about this period in my life that I kept secret. He told me about the house that I was in, the name of it. He talked about how you walk through the front double door, and there was a screen door and a jacuzzi on the right side. And he's walking me through this house. And I knew this house so well that
there's no way he could have known that.
Yeah, and as he's telling me this, I feel like kind of out of body experience, like surreal, like maybe I'm being recorded, maybe this is a reality show, like I'm like delusional, and so I'm like not grasping what he's doing, and I keep saying, I say, oh right, okay, that's not enough, like okay, whatever, you just walked me through. Well, what else? And I kept saying this, and he says, well, you walk up the stairs. Right before you walk up the stairs, there's an elevator, and it's got a fake door, a beautiful cherry door. And I'm like, yes, and I keep saying and because I'm just fascinated that he's able to just download like a video,
right,
the blueprints of this house. And he goes, there's an armory where you keep the weapons in, a gray door and another fake door. All the rooms are labeled with Greek coordinates, Latin longs, and I'm just like. And he names off the rooms like Tahiti, Colombia, Africa, whatever, And I'm just like going like shocked, And I kept saying, tell me more. This is very important. I kept saying, tell me more. And I'm at the edge of my seat, and he walks me up to the top floor, and he says, there's a big ship steering wheel. And then he says, and it's overlooking this beautiful sound. He called it a sound, the Ocracoke Sound, where my office was. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And I'm getting angry. I'm like so just blown away, like, why is this happening to me? Like, how are you doing this? And then he says, and there were ships and boats that would come up to the side of the house. And that was true. There was a canal. And I mean, this is so accurate. And I remember the last time I said, tell me more, I got real angry and I yelled at him. He later said he was terrified of me. They didn't know what I was going to do. And I literally said, tell me more, like in his face. Yeah. And he said, there was a path that you used to walk down behind the house. And when he said that, I just broke down, just bawling like a baby, snot coming out. And because he had identified a path that I walked down that nobody else knew about, bro, in the darkest place of my life. And he identified that one place where I never thought God would be and never thought Jesus could be. And he identified it with such pinpoint accuracy that I had no other choice or option in my life but to believe that there was a God. He did love me no matter all of my faults, no matter all my issues in this life, no matter all my problems, and no matter how dark it got in my life, no matter how alone that path seemed, because I was walking down that, that dark proverbial path in my life too, that he was there. He was recording everything. He saw everything, and he heard my cry. Like David said in the Bible, he heard this poor man's cry, and you answered him. And man, when he said that, I just kind of fell back in my seat and just bawled my eyes out like a baby for the first time in years. And I just let out all this stuff, man. And they said, can we pray for you? And they leaned over. And I remember them saying, and your left shoulder hurts too. And I'm like, yeah, at this point, what are you going to say? No, right. Like, I don't believe that can happen. Right. So I said, yeah. And believe it or not, they said that they saw a sword coming out my left shoulder. Wow. As crazy as that sounds. And I said, yeah, I had a lot of pain in my shoulder. And I can remember thinking, how can you get spiritual healing if you're in so much physical pain? I'm kind of distracted. And so they lean in, touch my shoulder, pray, and it goes away. My pain goes away like this. It's just these supernatural things happening. And I just, after that, man, I literally stood up out of that chair, and it was like a light had shone down on my life. it was just a complete perspective change in my life. And from that moment on, man, I was on fire for God. And I literally kind of just ran out of that room in joy. Like you hear these stories of people getting sick. Because I was Lazarus in the tomb, man. I was dead, man. I was a dead man walking. I mean, might as well be dead, man. I was going to prison, all this stuff. And as I'm leaving the Operation Restore Warrior, the same guy that prayed for me, Daniel, he says, hey, I want to let you know, I see a big chessboard and I hear checkmate and your case is going to get dismissed. And now I believed everything up until that point. Because when a professional lawyer is telling you that you're going to prison, it's over, right?
Yeah.
And so I get home, and remember, he said, checkmate, your case is getting dismissed. So I go home, I don't get my hopes up, but I'm on fire now. I'm just like, Mom, you won't believe what happened to me. And she thinks I went to some kind of church camp and did mushrooms, and I got to go report to my probation officer on house arrest. Right. She's like, what have you done? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And they even tell us they're like, don't go to your family and just spill the beans because nobody's going to believe you. And so, but I did, man. I went because I was the guy that just run and tell the good news, right? And so I'm calling my buddies, bro, and I'm calling my SEAL buddies, and they were in shock. I mean, these guys wouldn't even say it. They were just like, whoa, bro, like, dang, that's crazy. And because it's hard to believe something like that, but it happened to me. So I get back on house arrest, man, and my lawyer calls me, and the very first thing he says, and it's not like right when I got back, but I let like maybe 2 weeks go by, and the lawyer doesn't call me. And my mom and dad are like, call the lawyer. And I now I'm hearing from God. I literally heard wait, like one of those crosswalks.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah.
I heard that, and so I didn't do nothing, and it was really against how I used to. I used to just tackle all my problems. Call my lawyer, fight, angry, all this stuff.
Right.
And I didn't do nothing. And the next call that I got from my lawyer, Arnold, was, Jimmy, he goes, checkmate. And I said, what'd you say? What? And he said, checkmate. And I said, that's what the guys at Operation Restore Warrior, Jesus. He's like, dude, are you in a bar? Are you okay? Like, you're supposed to be on house arrest. A $5 million bond. And I said, no. He goes, forget it. He goes, it means your case is getting dismissed.
Wow.
And so my case was dismissed, man. And it was a wild, wild journey to get to that point that I don't wish on anybody. I don't wish that on anybody in this life, to go down what I went through and to have to go down that road. A lot of it was my own doing. A lot of it was a byproduct of what happened to me. And I take full responsibility for all my actions, good or bad. And there's been a lot of bad. There's been a lot of regret. But the main thing that I always go back to is that story of how Jesus Christ literally met me, saved my life. That guy literally came down and put me on blast and saved me. And ever since then, man, been rolling and going, man.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. What a story.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So
thank you, man.
What are you doing now? Like
what am I doing?
You know what I mean? Like, so what year was that? Like when were you told that you were free? Basically?
So that was basically 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
It took a while to process out, you know. But during that time, man, and part of my quiet meditation time in the morning, Sun Tzu said, "Ere the battle is won in the general's temple." You win the battles before you ever walk out the door to go to the gym,
Correct.
To go do this, to make a business deal. You win that battle. And so that's what I was doing. I was spending a lot of time in meditation, in prayer. I was asking God to come in and give me downloads. And during that time, I literally would see and hear what to do. And so I opened up social media. It skyrocketed. What I consider to skyrocket, and thousands.
Were you just on social media, like telling your story?
Yeah, I just started. I didn't know how, but God had given me that download at Operation Restore Warrior. He's going to use me like a lighthouse, a lighthouse into His people. And so I just started telling my experiences, super raw. Just be you, be real, and I would just be real, and I would just start. Getting thousands of messages in my DMs, like literally thousands of people through TikTok And I didn't know the distinction between TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. I just started with TikTok, and that was successful. And then just transferred to Instagram and just starting up on YouTube. But my message now, man, is for absolute breakthrough and hope for anyone who feels like a lost ship in the night. I do two things now. I do that elite coaching here in Miami. You know, I live here now, and I'm doing my first ever get together in Miami here. It's basically like a hard reset for anyone who wants a day to calm down and just we're going to do some cool stuff. We're going to do the classroom work. We're going to do the beach work, the cold plunge, that SEAL mindset, and just for the ultimate breakthrough in their life. I do that one-on-one coaching now, and I have my Mighty Warrior Tribe where men are gathering from all over, and I do 2 calls a week with them. We're going to be meeting up with them. So anybody who from a businessman to an entrepreneur to somebody that just needs a hard reset in their life, man, that's what I'm all about. That's what I want to start here in Miami.
I love it. That's awesome, man.